When you enter the 96th and 2nd Avenue subway station in New York City, you'll no doubt be struck by both its newness and the large-scale artwork printed directly onto the tiles that adorns the walls of this station. When you enter from the southwest corner of the station, you may notice that the scene begins with a small point that accelerates quickly, increasing in complexity, before dissolving into a white cityscape. Then, after a brief pause on the escalator, the image picks back up again with a design that sort of looks like you're looking up at a building even as you move downward, before culminating in a circular swoosh of ladders and other hand-drawn forms, and finally a dynamic tableau of the construction at Hudson Yard. This work of art, this permanent installation in the 96th Street and 2nd Avenue subway stop, is called Blueprint of a Landscape, and it's by the artist Sarah Z. The MTA Arts and Design Department, founded in 1985, considered the applications of over 300 artists and decided to give 4 of those artists a commission to design a station. One of those commissions was awarded to Sarah Z. And she is an inspired choice for this project because the focus of her work is often a meditation on movement through space. And she's part of a long tradition of artists who have struggled and succeeded in capturing the dynamism of movement and technology in static forms like sculpture and painting. Evoking movement in an image that does not move, after all, is a complicated thing. Back in the early 19th century, during the first Industrial Revolution, artists like J.M.W. Turner painted scenes of speed with blurred lines in an attempt to capture the pace of technological innovation and contrast it with the surrounding natural environment. This painting, Rain, Steam, and Speed, one of my all-time favorites, attempted to capture the essence of high-speed transportation and accelerating pace of the modern world. He painted a steam engine, moving with such speed that it blurs and stains the landscape with its speed and smoke in an image that demonstrates how exciting and terrifying the pace of modern life can be. That was, during that time, the blistering speeds of just over 40 miles per hour. Scary stuff back then. But it only got faster during the Second Industrial Revolution during the early 20th century. A group of artists in Italy, a nation with an impressive artistic heritage and corresponding impulse for more conservative or classical art forms, a general love and indebtedness to the history of art, they made a concerted effort to glorify technology and modernization in order to overcome that pull from the old world and old traditions, and into an acceptance and glorification of the new and modern. Italy has a vested interest in maintaining the supremacy of Renaissance art in our popular imagination. They have a whole economy of tourism based on it. So the artists of the early 20th century needed to respond to that and be clear in order to get their message across. Forget the past. The future is faster and more exciting. These artists are known as futurists, and their work called on us to embrace the speed and uncertainty of a new interconnected world that moved too quickly to be fully understood, and then celebrate the resulting confusion. So Sarah Z enters that tradition with this blueprint of a landscape in motion in the 21st century. It's not just a train in motion here, but an entire city. She's capturing the speed of the modern world here. So let's just dig in here and look at a detail from that installation. Let's look at that swooshy bit at the end of the stairs, since it might be the most dynamic part of this piece. This circular swoosh of ladders is a two-dimensional rendering of a sculpture that she installed in the 21st Century Museum of Contemporary Art in Japan. It's a stationary sculpture that has the same dynamic energy as a painting by Turner or one of the futurists. It's engaging, exciting, but in sculptural form, it also has a fragility to it. Like many of her sculptures, people move instinctively slow around it. It gives you the impression that, like, if you sneeze or take a misstep, that you might ruin the balance of the piece. And that's something Sarah Z does extremely well. This ability to place her audience in a meditative or careful mental space. Context matters a lot when viewing art. Like when you enter a museum, you sign an imaginary contract that you're going to try to find meaning and treat the objects in front of you with some sort of reverence. If we enter a concert hall, we agree to actively listen and focus on the auditory space around us. A sculpture, for example, can change meaning when it's on the top of a cathedral or outside a government building. But that's all physical context. What we're talking about here with Sarah Z's work is often a psychological context, and that also changes the way that we engage with art. For example, a sad song can put us in a sad mood and change our emotional context in order to better receive the message of that particular song. Or an upbeat song can give us the energy to finish our run or prepare for a competition. Sarah Z's public sculptures often do something similar. Because they look so fragile, they change the way we psychologically or emotionally approach them in order to more thoughtfully engage. I don't, however, think that that's what's going on in a Second Avenue subway station. It would be a futile task for any artist to try to slow down the speed of a New York City subway station. What I think this work does accomplish is to match pace with New York. It's an upbeat song that comes on while you're already running and helps give your pace rhythm. It's like the song that you play to celebrate when you're already happy, or the dance you do to express that joy. It doesn't need to set a pace or create its own context. It needs to match the pace with the context that already exists. In an interview quoted in the New York Times, Z talks about how the work reflects the mind-boggling pace we're all moving at now, recognizing the energy and frenetic pace of modern life. She continues, though, and added that this isn't a criticism of modernity. The mural is not an expression of frustration or a statement that the world needs to stop moving so fast. She is not saying that the mind-boggling nature of this pace keeps her from understanding it or our ability to handle it. She adds, "There's a lot of information, but it has a kind of rhythm to it that you can navigate." So just as Turner was able to capture the speed of his train between the boundaries of his canvas and place both his fear and excitement into that landscape, Z provides a blueprint that includes contradictions in our world, motion and stillness, natural and the man-made. And she shows us that these contradictions, that this confusion and the rapid pace of our daily lives have a manageable rhythm. In the mezzanine of the station, there's an illustration of paper being swept up and scattered by the largely unpredictable dynamics of a subway car speeding through a station. It illustrates a bunch of paper, all of uniform size, being pushed around in different ways by the passing of a subway car. Looking at it, I cannot help but think of this image from the Metropolitan Museum of Art's collection. In the foreground, we see the chaotic consequences of a sudden gust of wind, no doubt disrupting the journeys of the protagonists. In this image, it's hard not to compare the vivid, dynamic, and unpredictable lives in that foreground to the static and simply rendered Mount Fuji in the background. The artist contrasts the hurried and frantic lives of these characters with the permanent, simple existence of the mountain. Sarah Z similarly places her dynamic hand-drawn rendering of orbital chaos next to these digitally rendered sharp lines of the Hudson Valley construction. From far away, New York City, even its construction, seems stationary, seems permanently stable. But close up in this subway station, you can see the dynamic rhythm of life. Sarah Z's permanent installation helps give us an understanding of that rhythm. And sometimes we just need to see these contradictions held together by a work of art to help us through the day. Thank you for watching this one. Please consider subscribing if you want to see more like it, or check out these other videos about art in New York City. Thank you for watching.